Good afternoon. Is this Shelley Snyder?
This is.
Hi, this is Miss George.
Can I put you on hold for 1 second? Miss George?
Yes?
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I apologize for that. I had to place you on hold for a moment. How can I help you?
Yes, I was calling to follow up with you to confirm if James had the opportunity to call his lawyer.
Not at this time, no.
Do you have the status of that when he'll be able to contact his lawyer?
According to our attorney, he's not able to enter into a legal contract at this time. And so that particular attorney, what was her last name again? I'm not sure that you gave it to me.
Actually, it was a contact name that he was supposed to speak with, and it is his right to speak to a lawyer. So he requested for me to find a lawyer for him, and he has a right to speak to legal counsel.
Well, that particular attorney, I left her a message to contact our attorney, and then he will be able to speak to her after she makes contact with our attorney.
Why does she need to make contact with your attorney?
I'm just telling you, what I was advised to do, Ms. George.
Okay, well, he does have a right to legal counsel. That's what's his request.
And he will get to speak with his attorney after she speaks with our attorney.
Well, he needs to speak with his attorney first. Before any other attorney speaks with his attorney, he should be able to speak to his own attorney. That's his right.
And George, one of the things you need to be aware of is that because he's been declared legally incompetent, he doesn't have the ability to enter into a contract with anyone, and so that's why that attorney needs to talk to our attorney first. So that's the reason we requested that they contact our attorney. Once they contacted our attorney, there shouldn't be any reason why he couldn't talk to her, but That's why it has to go through our attorney.
Well, whether he's legally competent or not, he still has a right to speak to a counselor, whether he's been legally adjudicated incompetent or not. And it's clear that he's not. So he has a right to speak to an attorney.
In the state of North Carolina, if you're adjudicated incompetent, you no longer have the ability to be able to.
Well, that's not the law that I read. Maybe we're reading two different laws, because when I checked with his attorney and mine, he has a right to speak to an attorney, whether he's incompetent or not. So that's the law. That's his rights. It's a constitutional right as well. So I just want to know the status when he will be able to call his attorney. So it doesn't matter if it's legally incompetent. It's clear that he's not, because he asked for an attorney. And I'm trying to follow up and figure out why his rights are not being honored to speak to an attorney.
We're not stopping him from it. What we're doing is
You are absolutely stopping him from it, because he's made several requests to speak to an attorney. Now that I have one for him, he should be able to speak to his attorney and have a conversation, right to legal counsel. So that's the way, that's the Constitution. So. Well, I've already submitted via email, just like Shelley requested. Any further questions, submit by email, and I've copied all of you in that email several times. So I'm just trying to follow up and find out a definitive answer when James will be afforded the right to speak to an attorney.
And you can speak to our attorney about that. You're welcome to speak to Ensley. You can send her an email, or you can call her.
And again, I've already done that, and I have received no response after several requests. So I'm asking now, when will he be afforded the right to speak to an attorney? He should not have to have permission from your attorney to speak to his own attorney. That anybody, even incarcerated, can have the right to speak to an attorney. So he should have the right to speak to an attorney. That was his request. In his best interest.
Our attorney and I'll have her call you, okay?
And my second request is, it was mentioned that another motion of hearing will be entered, and I was calling to find the status of that, because it was expressed that we were invited to be there.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen with regards to that. I can't tell you about that. Again, our attorney will have to be the one to explain that to you.
So maybe you can request that information from your attorney, and then you can forward it to me, because I was told by Shelley Snyder that she was waiting the status and the update of that next hearing that's supposed to be entered.
I've also explained to you, Ms. George, that you have as much right as anyone to file a motion.
And so do you, just like the guardian and the ward has a right to request the guardianship be altered, whether they're incompetent or not. So that is the law, period. That's his constitutional right to request the guardianship be modified, just like the guardian can modify it themselves as well. And I've copied that in an email to all of you as well.
So what else do you need?
The answers to those two questions. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, well, I'll get our attorney to get back in touch with you. Is there anything else you need?
I would just like this done expeditiously, just as expeditiously as it was done for James to be adjudicated incompetent. It could be turned around in the same expeditious fashion, and it is being prolonged deliberately.
We'll get back in touch with you then.
So when should I expect you to get in touch with me?
After I've had a chance to speak to our attorney.
When will that be?
As soon as I can.
Do you have an estimated time frame? 3 days, 1 week, another month? How long will that take?
Sometime this week you should hear from her.
And when is the set time for James to be allowed his phone calls? Because it's been different days each week and different allotted amount of times. So we need to make sure we can solidify a date and time and a specific amount of time in which he can speak with his family. That's what another thing that I was asking about and have been asking about all ongoing for the past 36 days.
Right. I explained initially that I need to check with Shelley regarding her schedule, and it basically depends on her ability and her availability to do that. If she's not available to do it, then I'll have someone else who's available to do it, and I still have to be mindful of their schedules. We have other jobs to do besides just this one case. So I will make sure that that arrangement is made, that someone will take care of that. But I can't tell you a definite date because it has to be within the framework of their schedules. So I'm not just going to set a date and say we're going to do it then. It will happen weekly, but I can't tell you when.
Well, the past conversation we had regarding the phone calls, you stated that it would be a definite day on each week. So now you can't tell me when. Now that's changed.
Ms. George, I said it would be weekly, and I said we would try to work out a day, but there's no.
Well, your request was for me to pin down a definite day, and I said any day would be fine. Any time of day would be fine. If we work it out, we can set a time and a exact time frame in which he's allowed to call. And certainly a half an hour is really not acceptable when he has not ever lived away from his family for an extended amount of time. And if we're looking at the best interest of James, then we need to make sure he stays consistent on a pattern. So that's the best interest of James. And I also came to follow up on the home visit. We did not get a chance to exactly the face-to-face visit. We didn't get a chance to pin that down either. That was another conversation that was flighty and flaky. So we're available for James to visit, and it is also within his right to be brought wherever he would like to visit. He expressed he would like to be brought home to visit for the face-to-face visit.
Oh, ma'am, we will not make it a visit to your home. You can come here and see him, and we'll make sure that.
Well, you made arrangements to come get him from his home, so you can make arrangements to bring him back to visit his family in his home.
So you can make arrangements to come here and see him, and that's the best I can do for you, and I'll make sure you can see him face to face.
Well, his request was for him to be brought home to visit. That is his right. Any incompetent or competent individual living in a facility is brought to where they request to visit, to their family, to their loved one, spouses, or what have you.
Family visits people in the facility. They make those visits at the facility.
And family also can receive a visit from people in facilities as well, as long as they're ambulatory and able to make the trip. So it is within his right to be brought to where he would like to visit. You are not honoring his constitutional and civil rights. It states it clearly in the law, and he can be brought to visit just like we can visit him.
That's all I got to say, Ms. George. I really, we'll try to make those arrangements so that you can see him or have a contact with him on Thursday. If you can tell us when you can come for the face-to-face visit, we'll make sure that we can make time to do that. But otherwise, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about bringing him to see you. That's not going to happen.
Well, that's his request, and you're violating his constitutional and civil rights as well.
Again, Ms. George, this is an incompetent adult we're talking about.
He's not incompetent.
Right.
You don't have any professional evaluation to say that he's incompetent, and there's no requirement for him to have an MDE, as he was already connected to services that did not require an MDE. So you don't have any professional evaluation to deem him incompetent, and I have documentation to prove that he is not prior to and afterwards. So he's not incompetent. You had him adjudicated illegally incompetent. We've already been over that several times. So we can make arrangements to honor his request to be brought home to visit his family, and he should be allowed to speak with legal counsel. He should not have to pass through your attorney that represents DSS, does not represent James. So he should be afforded the right to speak with a counselor, his lawyer, which he was not afforded prior to being adjudicated incompetent. We requested that also. So we need his rights and his constitutional rights to be honored and upheld. He was violated, his rights were violated, and you are not honoring his rights. So he has the right to speak to legal counsel. Mr. Ensley, are you gonna arrange and honor his wishes to be brought to his family for a visit?
I'm ending our conversation, Ms. George. If you can't tell me a date, I'm gonna have to hang up.
So are you saying that you refuse to honor his rights to speak to a lawyer?
I need to know what dates you are available to have.
I already provided the dates via email, Mr. Ensley. Did you recall your email? Did you draw up your email and read it? Do you review your emails? That's my answer. Should I resubmit the request again? Maybe you didn't receive it.
Tell me the dates that you're available to visit.
I already submitted my dates, and his request was to be brought to visit his family.
Oh, well, you're going to visit here. So when can you come here?
We are going to visit him per his request in his home where he was removed from. If you can make arrangements to remove him from his home, you can bring him back as to visit to his home.
Okay.
Or do I have to have a judge do it?
Up to you, Ms. George. You need to tell us when.
It's not really up to me because you took that out of my hands when you had him illegally adjudicated incompetent. So it's up to really a court now.
If you're not giving me a date, I'm hanging up the phone.
And again, I've given you the date via email.
Okay. Well, talk to you later then.